Repetition. The third of the viewpoints of time that we're looking at, demonstrated there by the good people from Family Guy, repeating their gag that we saw in Duration. Repetition is used in storytelling to set up patterns, so we see an example with It's a Trap, repeating that pattern, and also to break patterns. So comedies also set up patterns for us and then break those patterns to break our expectations and deliver something other than what we were expecting. This is used also in drama, so either setting up suspense or setting up routines and breaking them. We see a lot of this in all kinds of things, really. So for example, in Stranger Than Fiction, the clips that we looked at earlier, in that movie, a pattern is established at the start of the movie. Harold Crick's life, the pattern of his life, and then that pattern is broken. So a lot of storytelling is in fact about taking patterns that we're familiar with, the way we live, and breaking them. And that's what makes it an interesting story. But of course we're looking at acting, so repetition is also used to create character, to create habits and personality. So our motor holds are the shapes, the gestures, and the topography that we repeat. The things that we do so often it becomes habitual. So people's personalities are defined, as we say, by their actions. And they're defined by the actions that they do most often. So if we see people doing the same kind of activities day in, day out, then we start to make assumptions about them, and that starts to define who they are. And we break repetition down similarly to tempo in terms of internal and external repetition. So internal repetition, repeating something within yourself, when a character takes something that they've done before and does it again. Now this doesn't necessarily mean they have to do it exactly the same way. They may do a variation of it, and we'll see as we go through how much you can vary things when you repeat them. So for example, the Josh Lyman swagger from The West Wing. This is a signature walk of that character that tells us something about him. So throughout all 7 seasons of West Wing, we see this character predominantly using this confident swagger that tells us something about him. Internal repetition goes beyond just establishing character, but can also tell story or become more significant, as we can see in this example from The Count of Monte Cristo.
Stop that. You'll go bald.
So in that clip we see how internal repetition was important. In this film we see him return many years after he's been almost forgotten by his wife-to-be, and it's that repetition of that gesture that gives him away to her, that she recognizes. So we also have external repetition. So repeating the shape, the tempo, the gesture, or other things that have come from outside the body. So when a character repeats something that someone or something else has done. As you can see in this picture here, we can see a stormtrooper repeating the behavior of Darth Vader, or repeating the costume. So, as I mentioned earlier, a repetition doesn't have to be an exact repetition. So this looks like a pretty sloppy repetition of the way Darth Vader conducts himself when he's holding a lightsaber. But the different ways that you repeat someone, the variation that you add onto the repetition, also tells us stuff about the character, the circumstance, and story.
Would you like to try this? better?
No.
Excuse me. Would you keep an eye on him, please? He's feeling rather poorly.
So, in Mr. Bean Rides Again, we see a lot of repetition, different uses of repetition by Rowan Atkinson in Mr. Bean. We see him repeating the behaviors of various musical performers, the drumming, the singing of an opera singer. And then we see him repeating other things. We see him repeating the action to vomit. We see him repeating the action of the airplane also. So this is another example of changing up a repetition. So he takes the motion of the airplane and repeats it in his hand as he's holding the airplane. Repetition is well used, especially in fish out of water kind of stories. Stories where you see one character trying to learn about a world that they're not familiar with, or an innocent character trying to understand another world. Things like the Iron Giant.
Banzai! Come on in! The water's great!
No thanks.
Weenie! Come on in! It's really, really refreshing. What? You too? You big baby!
Hey! Yeah?
So in this film, we see repetition being used beautifully in the giant's attempts to fit in and become part of the human world. And not only that, so we also see later how repetition is used to show us the growth of the character. So in that clip there, we saw the example of him trying to fit in, repeating the action of Hogarth as he jumps into the water. But later on in the film, we see him repeating other things that Hogarth has told him, and repetition of things that he's heard from Hogarth, informing how the character has developed beautifully through the story. I don't want to say any more. Go and watch the film and see what I mean. Now, repetition, external repetition, can be the gestures, tempo, and shape of something outside the body. So not just repeating someone or copying someone, but also repeating other things from outside the body. So we saw the example of Mr. Bean repeating the airplane in his hand. We see Fry do this a lot in Futurama. So let's have a look at Fry repeating various things outside his body.
I got nervous and I started thinking about neck bolts. Wow, did you see that vase break? It was all like...
Okay, if we're gonna save Bender, we've got to look and act exactly like robots.
I am fully operational, Captain.
We'll have to walk like robots, talk like robots, and if necessary, solve complex differential equations like robots.
I can sort of dance like a robot. Will that help?
Fry, first of all, this is serious. And second of all...
This is awesome. We're gonna be like, pow, 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 and they're gonna be like, ah! And then we'll have pancakes to celebrate, and I'll be like...
I know now what my primary function is. I am a battle droid, sworn to protect the weak from crazy robots.
Let's see how much of a robot you really are!
Oh! No knife can penetrate my skintanium armor.